I remember the exact moment something inside me broke. Not when I was washing dishes at midnight or skipping meals so everyone else could eat, but when my own mother looked at me and said, "You don't really do much around here. Your one click can keep these stories alive. Subscribe, because every voice deserves to be heard." I didn't argue. I just stood there quietly because deep down I knew it wouldn't change anything. For years I had been the one doing everything, cooking, cleaning, babysitting, fixing whatever no one else wanted to touch, while my brother was too busy and my sister was too tired. And me, I was just available. So they used me in small, constant ways that never stopped. And I kept saying yes, hoping one day they'd finally notice, finally appreciate me, finally see me, but that day never came. And I slowly became invisible, just hands that worked and a voice that didn't matter. Then one afternoon, a small box arrived with no return address, just my name written neatly on top, and something about it felt different, almost intentional. I took it to my room, closed the door, and opened it slowly. Inside were old official documents, and at the very bottom, a letter. My hands started shaking as I read the first line, because in that moment, everything I thought I knew about my family began to fall apart. And I didn't react because I had just realized something they didn't. The room went silent the moment I decided I was done staying quiet. And for the first time, I didn't wait for permission to speak. I just did. "We need to talk," I said calmly, placing the documents from the box on the table like they weighed nothing, even though my heart was pounding. My brother barely looked up. My sister sighed like I was interrupting something important, and my mother gave me that same dismissive look I had seen 1,000 times before. "Can this wait?" she said. I shook my head. "No, it can't." They exchanged glances, already annoyed, already underestimating me, just like always. "What is this?" my brother asked, tapping the papers lazily. I met his eyes for the first time without backing down. "It's the truth," I said. He laughed. Actually laughed. "You've been acting weird all day." "What truth?" That's when I slid the first document closer to them. "Read the name," I said. My mother leaned forward, her expression shifting slightly as her eyes scanned the page. "This is old paperwork," she muttered. "Exactly," I replied. "Old enough that you thought no one would ever question it." My sister frowned. "Can you just say what you're trying to say?" I took a slow breath. "The house isn't yours." That got their attention. Completely. My brother sat up straight. "What?" My mother's face tightened. "Don't be ridiculous." But I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just pulled out the letter and placed it gently on the table. "It was left to me," I said quietly, "legally, years ago." Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. "That's not possible," my sister whispered. "We would know." I shook my head. "No, you wouldn't, because it was never meant for you to know." My mother grabbed the paper now, her hands no longer steady as she read faster, her eyes moving back and forth like she was searching for a mistake that wasn't there. This doesn't make sense," she said, but her voice didn't sound confident anymore. "It makes perfect sense," I replied. "I just never had the proof before." My brother stood up suddenly. "So, what are you saying? That we've been living in your house?" I held his gaze. "Yes." He let out a harsh laugh, but there was no humor in it this time. "You're joking." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The documents spoke for me. The signatures, the dates, the official stamps. They were real, and for the first time, they couldn't ignore me or brush me aside. "This is insane," my sister said, pacing now. "Why would no one tell us?" I looked at her, really looked at her. Maybe because they knew exactly how things would turn out. My mother slammed the papers down. "Even if this is real, it doesn't change anything," she snapped, trying to regain control. "We're still your family." I nodded slowly. "You're right," I said. "You are." For a second, relief flashed across her face, until I continued. But that doesn't mean you get to use me anymore. That's when the panic started. Real panic. Wait, my brother said quickly, his tone shifting completely. Let's not do anything stupid. Stupid, I repeated, almost amused. You mean like letting this go on for years? My sister stepped closer. We didn't know, she said softly, but it sounded more like a plea than an excuse. I tilted my head slightly. You didn't know, or you didn't care enough to notice? No one answered that. Because they couldn't. Because deep down they knew the truth. I had been right in front of them the whole time, breaking slowly, quietly, and they had chosen not to see it. What do you want? My mother finally asked, her voice low, controlled, but I could hear it now. Fear. I picked up the documents again, stacking them neatly. Nothing, I said calmly. I don't want anything. Confusion. More silence. Then why are you doing this? My brother asked. I looked at all of them. Really looked this time. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel invisible. I didn't feel like I needed their approval. Because now, I said quietly, I don't have to stay. And that's when it hit them. Not the papers, not the legal truth, but the shift. The control they thought they had over me was gone. Completely. Their expressions changed all at once. Shock, fear, disbelief. Because for the first time, they realized they weren't in charge anymore. I was. And I didn't need to shout or fight or beg to prove it. I just had to walk away. They had no idea. I was already 10 steps ahead. I didn't leave in anger. And that's what unsettled them the most. I was calm, almost quiet as I packed my things like someone who had already made the decision long before this moment. No shouting, no accusations, no dramatic goodbyes. My mother tried to speak, her voice softer than I had ever heard it, but I didn't stop. My brother offered to talk things out. My sister said things would be different now, that they would help more, that they would appreciate me, but I had heard promises before, and they had always come too late. This time, I wasn't waiting for change. I was choosing it. I walked through the house one last time, not with sadness, but with clarity, realizing it was never really a home to me, just a place where I was needed but never valued. When I reached the door, I paused for a second, not because I was unsure, but because I wanted to remember this feeling, the feeling of finally putting myself first. After that, I stepped outside and didn't look back. The calls started later that night. Messages filled with apologies, explanations, even guilt, but I didn't answer because silence was the only boundary they would finally understand. Days passed, and for the first time in years, my life felt lighter, like I could breathe without carrying everyone else's weight. I didn't hate them, and I didn't need revenge. I just needed distance and the strength to keep it. Because in the end, it wasn't about the house or the documents or even the truth that came out of that box. It was about me finally realizing my worth. They didn't lose me, they lost access.